Hi, I'm Sonia Luna, CEO of Aviva Spectrum. My guest today is Bill Carmody. Welcome, Bill.
Thank you so much, Sonia. I need your introduction. I need to have that every time I go anywhere. So thank you for that awesome introduction.
I'm your personal PR person. This
Love
is
it.
Bill. Well, I'll tell my audience why I'm really excited about this interview because it's literally been years. There's a lot of books on auditing right now, but the auditing profession really has been trying to understand what the impact and the risk of social media is. More importantly, what costs it could have when you're basically spending good money, on bad social media marketing plans. I know today our listeners are going to walk away knowing how and why influencer marketing works and how auditors can find the right audit trail. Let's get into it, Bill. I want to take our listeners first to the past, and I mean way, way back in the day. Given your over 22 years in digital marketing, what changes have you seen occur in the last 2 decades?
So I love that question. So when I first started in 1994, I was building some of the very first commercial websites for AT&T, MasterCard, CBS, and Coors Brewing Company. And when we placed the very first banner ad for MasterCard on Yahoo, and it was one of the very first banner ads Yahoo ever had, we were getting a 44% click-through rate. Today, the average click-through rate for banner display ads is 0.04%, right? So you can see it's almost a rounding error. It doesn't even count, right? So that's changed dramatically. 90% of Americans ignore digital ads, according to Harris Interactive. And $7.2 billion is the estimated global losses due to bot fraud. And 40% of ad revenue is lost to websites who are targeting millennials because they are ad blocking. So over the last 22 years, what's happened is there's been a massive amount of sophistication on the consumer side. Consumers don't want to be talked at. They never have, but now they have the power to stop and block advertisers from ramming messages down their throats. And so essentially that transformation over the last 22 years, we've gone from a place where people essentially took their broadcast-based view of marketing and just turned it to digital. Right, so in 1994 or mid-90s to early 2000s, it was a lot of brochureware. It was a lot of broadcast-based, one-directional, looking at that way. And now what's happening is if you don't engage your customers, if you don't think differently about how you market to them, they'll just straight up block you. So that means your advertising is basically wasted. So that's why, and we'll get into influencer marketing a little more, but that's what I'm such a huge fan of because it really does change the way and the dynamic in which customers and brands are engaging with each other.
So I just walked away with a big aha moment on those figures because the trending in the last 2 decades really, obviously, there's a smaller percentage of actual positive reaction to a banner ad. That's the number one major takeaway. And the second is, when we've been auditing, especially the sales cycle as auditors, we get a lot of different stories. For example, oh, that receivable for that customer, yeah, it's collectible. Trust me. You talk to a sales guy and they're like, we're gonna get paid on that. Don't worry about that. Blah 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 blah. Oh, this plan, this marketing, it's gonna work. I know it. It's gonna happen. I just feel it. And this is the reason why our buyers are this. And you as an auditor are looking at it going, well, I'm not a marketing expert. But the big takeaway here is in the last 2 decades, if someone's thinking through a banner ad model, okay, one is metrics do matter, okay, and it's got to be something more sophisticated than what's been used in the past. That's a big takeaway. And number 2 for the auditing profession, I would say, is that metrics are out there. So and they're actually going down. So if there is not an additional plan beyond the banner ad that you can sink your teeth in and audit, that's a major red flag for the auditing. We're wasting money on this particular marketing program.
And just to respond to that too, I mean, one of the things that's fascinating to me is that, when banner ads were getting 44% click-through rates, they made all the sense in the world, right? It was that was better than direct mail. That was better than most actual, marketing platforms. So it was crushing it. But when you get to a point where you're looking at sort of fighting like a 0.04% click-through rate, and you start to say well, but we can do it through programmatic means, and we've got all these great technologies to serve up these ineffective units, The question is, I don't care how efficient it is if it's still ineffective. And so for me, part of what I look at from a compliance perspective, and thank you for continuing to sort of drill that home, if you look at sort of what are you doing with your advertising dollars, your ultimate outcome is I'm either trying to build my brand, right, so that people are discovering me for the first time, or ultimately I'm trying to move them through the customer journey where they go from discovery to engagement to transaction and then advocacy. And in looking at that path, what you're finding is that if they aren't discovering you, how are they going to engage with you? If they're not engaging with you, how can they transact with you, right? And so there's this natural challenge of if you're wasting your dollars at the top of the funnel, right, from a banner ad perspective, then how can you possibly expect it to translate through to the sales and ultimately the advocacy that you need to be successful in marketing today?
Right. It's walking through that journey, like you said, getting either understand the main objective, which auditors are supposed to find out the audit objective to begin with, and more importantly on the sales and marketing cycle is, well, what is the main goal here? Is it just to get the branding out there, or more importantly, like you stated earlier, getting the customer or that prospective customer through that journey to get to know the company and build that trust factor? Now, I wanted to switch gears on our compliance audience. Okay, so given our compliance audience on our show, what are third-party reports that compliance experts can really rely on the data they've been given?
So that's a great question. And I'll tell you, there are industry reports and then there are specific campaign level reports. And so the reason I make that distinction is because you can subscribe to Gartner, Forrester, any of these research services that will help give you some trends. I mean, even eMarketer, right? So there's lots of them out there. They are really good at telling you sort of industry level specifics. If you're looking to benchmark your campaigns, then it's no secret. Go onto Google and say, I'm looking for what is the average click-through rate of a banner campaign. It's that simple, right? And what you're going to get is reports from Harris Interactive, DoubleClick, Forrester, Gartner, any of those. That part is going to help you with context, right? So you want to be able to say, okay, this is what my baseline should be because this, for others in the industry that are similar to me, this is what I need to be looking at, right? But then you want to go one step further because what you really want to be looking at is what are the sort of third-party reports I can use on my own campaigns? And when we talk a little bit about, sort of these types of initiatives, you're looking at now things like Nielsen and IRI data that are tracking transactional data, right? And should we be able to see third parties that are continually looking at what kind of transaction process we're getting and then being able to map it back. I mean, even simple things like if you're doing e-commerce, you can trust Google Analytics to tell you where your pages are being abandoned, where where things are sort of being dropped out. But if you want to get really deep, you want to go to an Omniture, you want to basically look at Adobe Test and Target. These are platforms that will help you get really rich, concrete data around what kind of what's happening with your campaigns, because you need both. You need to know what's happening today, right now, on the marketing that you're spending your dollars on, and then you also need to know how that compares to your peers in the industry, right? So what are other people that are in my industry? How are they performing? And am I about the same? Am I better? Am I worse? And you need to be able to see that so you can see how you optimize your campaigns.
We are wrapping up this interview. I had so much fun. I'm confident our listeners gained significant insight on what to consider and measure when they review their organization's social media marketing efforts. Thank you, Bill, for coming on our radio show.
I am so pleased. And Sonia, just let me leave you with one last thing. I know that if the audience wants to go a step further, I would invite them to come. We have a monthly webinar, Influencer-Marketing. It's just a great free resource that they can go to if they want to learn more about this subject. Because if you've gotten their appetites wet and they want to learn more, it's a great place to go to figure that stuff out. So thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Where can they get your book, by the way? Let's also talk about that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. BillCarmody.com. They can just go directly to my website. I'm giving away for free. My only request is that they pay for shipping, and it's just because I don't want the free book to cost me money. So, as a good compliance person, I'm saying just pay for shipping. It's $5, and I will ship the book to anywhere within the United States. And if it's international, we can work something out too.
That's an awesome offer, Bill. Thank you for offering that to our listeners. Well, this is Sonia Luna, CEO and founder of Aviva Spectrum, signing off.